Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Brighter Podcast. My name is BatSheva.
And my name is Chelsea.
My life is so much brighter thanks to Chelsea.
My life is definitely brighter thanks to BatSheva.
Chelsea and I love to come on here and share all the stories that we have, personal stories, all the tools that we use, the modalities that we learn about and test out in order to share them with you and figure out which ones are making our lives brighter in order to help your lives also become brighter and brighter. And today, episode 43 is no exception. We are going to brighten the world up with this topic. It's a very important topic near and dear to our hearts. But before we get started, let's go ahead and do what we like to do in the beginning of each podcast episode, which is take 3 nice, calming breaths arriving here together. So if you're in a place where you can close your eyes, go ahead and do that. Otherwise, just allow your body to feel a bit more settled and breathing in altogether through our nose, calming, soothing energy. Maybe holding for just a quick pause at the top and then blowing it out gently through the mouth, allowing the muscles to relax. Taking a second, nice, easy, deep breath in through the nose, imagining calm, soothing energy entering you. And when you release, just imagining that anything's ready to go, it is leaving the body. A third and final breath together, we take in through the nose, calm, quieting energy. Feel free to sigh as you let it out. Yay! So here we go. This episode, we have decided to call it The Courage to Speak Up. I feel emotional just speaking up those words. Why? Because for me, I am really still in this journey. I am by no means like at the top of any mountain of speaking my truth and speaking it loudly and speaking it to power and speaking it to personal and professional and governmental bodies that, let's say, could use my voice, whether they want it or not. But that said, I feel so grateful to be at least where I'm at now. At the so young age of 53, I feel so grateful that I have basically developed the courage internally over and over to practice and strengthen the muscles of saying things that in the moment feel like it might ruffle the seas or make someone upset or expose myself in a way that might make me feel ashamed or self-conscious. This is tough for women, especially in our culture. We are raised from birth in this culture to be the peacekeepers. And women who are not are often branded, all kinds of negative words, and they have to deal with that. And it's interesting because I was sharing with Chelsea before the show. When I was growing up in Washington, D.C., very liberal city, my parents wound up sending me to an amazing, amazing private school. I was so lucky to have that experience. And it was a bubble, an echo chamber, I will say, of everyone having more or less the same point of view. And it was very pro speaking up for victims' rights. So I was like the president of Amnesty International chapter of my high school one year. I was in I think I co-founded the women's issues group. I was into feminism. We would go and march. It's Washington, D.C., so we would go march on Washington easily, like any other Sunday. We would go picket outside of some Middle Eastern diplomat's office. What's it called? The embassy, just like picketing, whatever they were doing. And I had all the support. I literally took a class called something like passivity, like learning to be a pacifist. And then he wouldn't give us grades because he thought that grades were a form of aggression and violence. And we were like, okay, I'll get an A. We could just give ourselves grades. So it's a very cushy environment to grow up in. I could speak my voice fucking loud and clear when it came to politics in that environment because everyone was saying the same thing. And interestingly, in my personal life, I was not so loud. I had relationships with different boys where I just allowed them to be, the voice for both of us. And I would speak up here and there, but it wasn't comfortable for me. And let's say my family with divorce and all the chaos that comes with, different blended families. Again, I wanted to keep the peace and be the one that like didn't rock the boat, be the one that everyone could see she's doing amazing. And, she gives everyone else support and strength. So that meant I wasn't going to ruffle feathers, at least not on purpose. I tried not to. So cut to Yale was somewhat similar, a kind of like similar bubble. And then after Yale, like being out in LA, similar bubble, acting, creative life, surrounded by a lot of artists. Artists generally relate to the underdog because that's kind of like how we find our creative voice and power. It's very powerful if you ever have been swept away by a movie or a book. It's often because it hits that part of you that feels so vulnerable and you just feel seen and heard and empowered by hearing the disempowered voice spoken or written about or reenacted. So it wasn't until I joined a spiritual community where the majority of my community did not see life the way I saw it politically. I had a real reckoning. Wow, did I have a reckoning? And suddenly I didn't feel so comfortable speaking my truth, speaking my point of view, because I didn't want to hear the opposite point of view. I didn't mind hearing it, but there was no conversations that we were able to have that led to anyone changing their point of view, quite honestly. My ex-husband and I, we were able to talk about, like, for example, the Israeli Palestinian conflict, and we went deep there. And I actually opened up a whole side of myself that growing up in DC, I was like, the Israelis are wrong, the poor Palestinians. And then, wow, did I see another point of view when I visited Israel and I met his family and I saw what the Israelis were subjected to historically and on a day-to-day basis by, let's say, the Hamas version of the Palestinians, which was like a very real daily threat to them. And it just became more real and more complex and nuanced. And I'm so grateful for that experience because now I feel my heart, my mind can hold a lot more than it could before. It's not so black and white. And at the same time, I still don't like to get into conversations about it, really with either side, because it's just more often than not nuanced, and that's tough. So the question I have, I'm going to pose it to you, Chelsea. I know we had like a different thought, but I'm wondering, like, what do you think about politically when someone's in a situation where they just don't want to get in an argument with other people? I don't know if you've ever been in that situation and you're surrounded by people who don't see things the way you see it, but you do see things a certain way. How do you decide whether or not to speak up in that moment? Putting you on
Hmm.
the spot.
Well, yes, I would say I've definitely been in that situation many times in my life. And really, what it comes down to has been one, kind of the emotional state that I'm in. And am I reacting or am I responding? Like, am I already ready to go and in that mood of, I'm going to tell you what's on my mind? Because definitely the younger version of Chelsea would just spew off anytime about whatever her thoughts were. Then I kind of went through this phase of not speaking and not wanting confrontation at all. And really, I don't know that it was like passivity or if it was just wanting to see everything through the rose colored lens and to find the positive. And not to say that I don't do that now, but I would say the difference is now that I'm leading a much more balanced life between the two, that there is more of a moment of consideration and tuning into what I'm actually feeling and thinking about it, even if it's for a split second before responding. Or even considering, is this something that I want to get into? We had talked about some of the different things that are happening right now. And one of the things, like first kind of going back to what you had mentioned about women and, kind of how it's been in the past. And it really brought me to a recent clip that I saw of Michelle Obama, who was talking about women speaking up and women thinking that they have something or that they're wise about something or that they know something about something. And that it oftentimes, I mean, she's 61, or she was in the clip, and she said, I'm 61 and I'm just now thinking like, oh yeah, I have something to share. I know something about something. She said, but oftentimes men are 30 and they're gurus, that they know all there is to know. And not to like bash men by any means, but just saying that, kind of relating back to what you were saying about the upbringing, about, that women have been trained to kind of be this good girl or be this obedient person. Or, I mean, hell, we were even property for a long time. Our fathers giving us away to our soon to be husbands, and what came with us? Oh, their land or their money or whatever it was. It was like all like a business transaction. And so that was kind of one thought that I had. Kind of relating to things. And then kind of the other thought that was coming in was regarding, you had asked about speaking up, speaking for something that maybe I was going to be the lone wolf, the only person having that opinion. And yeah, it's not easy. Even whenever I was the strong willed, bold, brave, like did not give a flying fuck about what anyone thought, still having just one person there that believed in me or sought this, had the same opinion, which is why I feel like this topic today is so important, because more and more people, more and more women are speaking up. And even if they don't feel like they've necessarily been heard or they're being heard, someone is hearing it. Just using your voice and sharing what's going on with you, like someone is seeing it, regardless of whether they're able to act on it and, actually have the capacity to say something or to do something. They now know. And where that's, to me, just shining the light on things. And once there is enough light there, then that's whenever the change happens. And I feel like that is really like that we are witnessing that in real time right now. Is it happening as fast as it, should have? Should all of these people that have experienced this pain and torture and unjust actions, should they have had to experience that? No. I mean, no. And also, like, that's already happened. And so, what can we do now to make a difference? And I believe that is people sharing, people saying what's going on with them, because that brings awareness.
I agree. I was thinking about a woman who spoke up to the swim coach that was like, I was observing this guy who was coaching a swim team where I go swimming just recreationally. We were all waiting to get in the pool, and the coach was like talking about Russia's invasion of the Ukraine. And he had this whole opinion that a lot of people I know have, that, for whatever reason, Russia is justified, kind of. And then I just thought in my stomach, oh, I don't agree, but I don't have all the facts and I can't get into it and I don't want to get in an argument and I don't. And then this woman spoke up, and I loved her, the way she was asking him questions, and she was like kind of holding space for his answers, but also she was very intelligent and she had knowledge. She wasn't pretending to know things that she didn't know. And I felt so grateful that she spoke up. I felt like it was on my behalf, actually. And you just made me think of that. So that just really rings true within my heart. The fact that sometimes we aren't the one that's going to be able to speak up in that moment. For example, literally me, like 2 weeks ago. And yet sometimes I am that person, maybe on a different subject, maybe on something that I have more information about, or I feel that I've gone through the fire and healed about, or maybe it's more personal, less political, but it's become political, like the stupid Epstein fucking situation. That's so personal, that's become political because somehow all these men got away with that for decades, decades. And I was a part of that culture. Being in Gen X, we were in that culture that just took it for granted that the men would pat your butt or pinch your ass. I'm not kidding you. Like when I was coming up and interning or working in law offices or wherever, like the men in charge would just like hit your butt. I'm not fucking kidding you. And for them, it wasn't even that. It was like the Mad Men era, like still like dribbling and drabbling into the Gen X, like those of us in Gen X, like as we were coming into the workforce. And that was the world we all lived in and accepted. I mean, we didn't all accept it, thankfully, because enough women somehow found the courage to speak up, speak up, speak up until there was a tipping point, at which point I think it was like Alyssa Milano, whose words "Me Too," echoed throughout eternity and created that movement. But I even remember learning that she wasn't even the first woman who had coined the term "Me Too." But again, it's just a tipping point. We don't know whose voice is going to be the one to break through the sound barrier. But because that Me Too movement happened, my whole life and paradigm changed literally forever. Because I was like, wait, it's okay to speak up. Like, it's not okay. I mean, I knew all those things weren't okay, but like now, culturally and institutionally, people are putting things in place, like protective measures in place, and people are speaking up about it. And my kids are growing up with language that I would have been so foreign to me. So, I mean, that created such a profound shift. It's such a stark example of the personal combining with the political and how the courage to speak up changed my life, someone else's courage to speak up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the ripple effect, totally, totally understand and can relate to that. I
Did
don't know
you
if this
have
is kind
I
of.
was wondering, yeah, I was wondering, have you experienced yourself
Yeah,
with
I was gonna say, I don't know, that it's at this moment, I'm not exactly sure where it is, but in another sense, something that has really been nuanced and kind of come into my life very recently with the training and education that I am pursuing right now was the thought of the people that haven't spoken up, the people who didn't have the opportunities, whether that be in this generation and this time and now, or whether that be our ancestors and our, great, 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 great grandmothers and the great, great, great grandmothers and great, great, and great, and great, and grandmother and mother and sisters and cousins and whatever it is. And I say that because I've had some things that have started coming up in me, and
do you wanna
I'm
explain for a minute to the listeners, like, what the course is that you're taking, and so what you're doing, like, specifically? Like,
yeah, so I'm taking a sex, love, and relationship certification, coaching certification. And in that, the first trimester of the work is really diving deep into our own personal journey and experiencing and doing the research and the own personal practices in order to, one, know yourself better and also to experience these tools that you will potentially be using with clients. And there's also lots of lectures and book assignment readings. And throughout this information, I have really been gifted the opportunity to go another layer deeper with myself. And it's been uncovering different feelings and different emotions. And I've felt like, whoa, like, was there something that has been suppressed in me from, maybe something that I don't even know about. Maybe it was something early on in childhood that, as a part of a defense mechanism, was suppressed or I dissociated from, or maybe it's something that was before I was pre-verbal, or maybe it's something that wasn't even mine, that was just something that has been passed down to me because someone else in my family wasn't able to speak up about what had happened to them for whatever reason. And so it's just the thought of, by not speaking up, by not standing up for ourselves or for others, then the cycle just continues. There is no opportunity for the light to be shined on it, for there to be a change, because sometimes it's not even known. And so this experience and what I am working with now and working through and processing and discovering, all of it is profound, really profound, to say. I'm like at a lack of words for even how else to put it. And also just really feeling for those past women, past generations. And it doesn't even just have to be women, anyone who's experienced any sort of oppression, of trauma, of abuse. You never know who else has had that. And so speaking up and sharing it, sharing your experience, sharing what you've been through gives others permission to do the same. Just like you had just mentioned, the woman at the swim, like, you wanted to say that and you were thinking it, and she did it. And then that, like, yes, maybe you didn't speak right then, but you also got the experience of witnessing someone stand up, someone speak back, which maybe in that exact moment didn't lead to you speaking, but who knows what it will do in the future. Maybe you can remember and recall back to that conversation, to that experience, and then that gifts you that in the next moment. And that's kind of what I feel like it is to speak up, even if you don't think you're being heard or even if no one's listening. It's speaking up for yourself. It's speaking up for others to have the opportunity for that permission slip later.
Agreed. And even on a personal level, I mean, I remember I had this recent Hinge dating app interaction that never got past the video call. Like, we never had an IRL moment, but we had a really long video call and it was pretty enjoyable. And I mean, it was over an hour. And so the next day, I was like pretty sure he'd text and he didn't. And then the second day, I was having all the feelings that every young teenage girl has. And, my teenage 53-year-old self was having too. Like, what's going on? And a little mental spiraling. But luckily, I have all the resilience and the strength and the courage of my 53-year-old self. And so I was like, huh. Like, obviously, I was like, whatever on the one hand. But also, I was real with myself. Like, it hurt for a minute. And then I got clear about how I felt about, let's say, his behavior, his lack of communication after that call. And instead of just leaving it, which would have been fine, I could have just, and that was it, like no more, or waited to see if he was going to text in another few days or whatever. But that's not me. That's not who I'm looking for. I'm not looking for a relationship like that, like somebody who we would connect with, like, somewhat deeply, and then I wouldn't hear from them the next day. And so when I got really clear with that, like Chelsea said in the beginning of this episode, it does have to do with my mental well-being and, let's say, being spiritually fit and emotionally resilient because of all those things. It wasn't hard for me to find my voice. And even if he didn't want to hear it and he didn't give a shit, I felt amazing crafting a text that was very empowering and very kind of calling him out. But also, like, I wasn't putting any blame, but I was just like, well, so here's what you didn't do that. And here's how I felt about it. And, so we're not the right fit. And, I just spoke my truth. I didn't apologize or anything. And I have a couple of girlfriends now who we sort of always like pool our dating app like experiences for the sake of, camaraderie, comfort, and laughter. And I have a couple of women friends who are doing the same, really like speaking their truth. And these little moments, it does feel like a tiny little gymnasium, to exercise the courage to speak up, the courage to speak up, the courage. And he did write back and he was sort of like defensive and whatever. And it didn't matter to me because I had already spoken my truth. And I think that if we, as people who may feel wounded, I almost said as women, but I appreciate, Chelsea, that you reminded me. It's like, I'm speaking for women in my head. And then I take a step back and I'm like, no, you're right. You never know. I never know what each person may have experienced and how they can relate to this topic. And every one of us, has those trigger points that want to shut us down and shut us up. And so each one of us, man or woman, if we're able to be spiritually and emotionally fit and resilient enough with our day-to-day practices that we can use our voice and find the courage to speak up over and over and over again, then we're being the change we want to see in the world. And what's more important than that?
This brings me to the quote that I really wanted to share this episode. It's actually from I forget what it's from, but the guy, I think it was
Is
from
it Jeff
Facebook, a
Foster?
Facebook post. Yeah,
Oh,
Jeff
yeah.
Foster, and
Mhm.
he was regarding spirituality and speaking up about things that maybe aren't comfortable, or the positive light, or seeing it from a spiritual lens. And he said, if our spirituality does not make us braver in the face of real abuse, more protective of the vulnerable, more willing to confront power when it shields harm and tells lies, then what exactly is it for? And that hit home so hard for me. I was like, yeah, like, what are we doing all this work for? If it is not empowering us to believe in ourselves more, to trust in ourselves more, to speak up more for how we feel and what we're seeing and what we morally believe is right. So yeah, he can be found at www.lifewithoutacenter.com.
And we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
we need to ask ourselves the question, and we're asking you, the listener, the question. Think about it. Where is your voice needed? Like each day, where is it needed? And where is it maybe being wasted? And if we keep that question front and center, where is my voice needed? Not in necessarily a grand, not all of us need to be in the front lines of every fight, but where is it needed on the fucking hinge up? Where is it needed on behalf of the woman who isn't ready to speak up, but needs someone to speak up for her? And that's maybe often the men because they still have sometimes a louder voice than the women and will be taken more seriously. Chelsea and I, we've shared some videos on Instagram when we see like some country music star or, even this guy, Jeff Foster, speaking on behalf of the women, the young girls who were mistreated and raped and abused with all the men and the Epstein mafia. It's so powerful. It's like, thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's also like finally, like fucking finally, in my opinion, and also grateful. Like grateful that people are having the courage because I'm sure that it takes courage for them as well to be the one that's standing out in their comfort zone, you know?
Yes. And like, may our daughters say that about us and our friends say that about us, like just be that they're grateful that we're speaking up, on our own behalf, on their behalf. Yeah.
So yeah, I think the kind of the overall arching, at least what I'm taking away, what really hit home for me is that even if no one's listening, even you're listening to yourself. It's just like talking to yourself in the mirror. Like you're hearing yourself speak your truth. And whether that's where it starts and then building that own inner resilience, that own inner strength, then empowers you to speak up more and more and more. And or like maybe you're just making a post and you don't know who's going to see it, but somebody sees it. Or maybe you're talking to a friend or you're at a pool and you just speak up, someone is hearing it. And even if, and especially if that someone is you, that makes a difference.
Girl, amen. I'm in the church of this topic and I love that. Love it. I feel like that can be, kind of the period on the sentence of this episode. What do you think?
Mic drop.
Mic drop, mind blown, all the things. Yay. So thank you so much for joining us, everybody. If something really resonated with you in this episode, or you thought of someone else who might benefit and also might become lit up and their life could be a little bit brighter thanks to this episode, please share with them. We would really appreciate that help. Getting the word out, brightening, pollinating with our brighter bees, all the positivity. We are working and endeavoring to be the brighter change that we want to see in the world.
And if there's something that you want to speak up about, that you want to be heard, please put it in the chat, DM us, message us. Your voice is heard here. You are witnessed here. We would love to be that space for you.
And we are that space for you. Absolutely. Before we sign off, we'll finish with our daily W's, which is one win, one wow, and one wish for today. For today, unique to today. Chelsea and I share this technique with each other every day, and it insanely nuclear brightens our days. So here we go. My turn to share one win for today. I'm bragging that even though I had the time wrong to record this podcast, I was able to seamlessly pivot into the whole recording hemisphere of my brain and my house and my life. And that's my win number one. I rocked it out. And my wow number one, what I'm really grateful for is that I managed to journal my 3 pages and do a 1-hour sit meditation today. And I'm so grateful for, honestly, the life that affords me that space and time to do that. I did not always lead a life that I even could meditate, let alone had the time or the space for it. So I'm super grateful for that.
Beautiful. And I am coming in with a wish. I am wishing that this episode, that this podcast, this episode particularly, reach at least one person that it inspires to speak up, to speak with courage, with confidence, with clarity for something that makes a difference in their life, and that is able to ripple out to the collective and impact everyone in a positive, uplifting way.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Well, we've enjoyed this so much, sharing with you all. Make sure to like and subscribe and come on back next time. We can't wait to continue to brighten your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you.